Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. The St. Louis Downtown Airport is a public-use airport located near Cahokia, Illinois, about 3 miles southeast of the Gateway Arch. It is owned and operated by the Bi-State Development Agency. Historic Hangar Number 2 at the airport houses the Greater St. Louis Air and Space Museum. Also, the airport is home to the oldest flight school, Parks College of Engineering. Our guest today is Bob McDaniel, the director of the downtown airport. Colonel McDaniel is a retired Air Force pilot who flew his first solo flight from that airport on his 16th birthday. Following a 25-year career in the Air Force, Bob McDaniel retired, ran the Texarkana Regional Airport for a while, then returned and has been the director of the St. Louis Downtown Airport for the past 13 years. Today we'll be talking about the downtown airport, its mission, and events on the property. Bob McDaniel, welcome to Conversation.
Good morning.
So let's just talk about your airport. Most people call it Parks. Matter of fact, you heard that when you first walked into this room before we went on the air. What's the story with that? Why is it called Parks, and why is it called the St. Louis Downtown Airport?
We are steeped in history. The airport opened in 1928 and has had the Parks name attached to it almost throughout its entire history. Oliver Parks was the first airport manager there. He established a flight school, which eventually became Parks College, eventually St. Louis University's Parks College of Engineering, Aviation, and Technology. It's gone through a series of names, Parks Metropolitan. In 1959, Oliver Parks decided that there was more money in residential real estate than there was in aviation. He had trained 1/6 of all the World War II pilots for the United States. World War II was behind us. Now it's time to make money in residential real estate. So he closed the airport. Immediately, the St. Louis business community realized what a jewel they'd lost and started trying to figure out how to get the airport back open and functional again. Bi-State Development Agency was that vehicle. They floated the bond issue, which bought the airport, made some improvements, and reopened it. And it reopened in 1965 as Bi-State Parks Airport. When it reopened, the flight training that was done at Parks College, which is only a mile south at the time, moved to the airport, and they closed the flying field at the old college campus. Parks Flight Department has been on our airport ever since, and we continue to turn out some of the best pilots in the nation.
And why did Mr. Parks think that he wanted to close this airport? I mean, was it his to close?
He bought the airport in the early 1930s, and he actually owned it until he started building houses on it. Some of those residents still live nearby who bought their houses from Mr. Parks, and once in a while they remind me that the airport was closed and never to reopen.
And now it's back, and the sounds of engines are...
We're one of the 50 busiest airports in the nation for general aviation, and we've consistently been in the top 5 busiest in the state of Illinois. Right now, I think we rank number 4, down from number 3. We lost a little traffic when we did some runway construction last year, but we stay busy. On a really good day, we'll have as many as 1,000 takeoffs and landings in a good spring and fall sunny day.
Now, you mentioned the term general aviation. Why don't you tell people what is general aviation and how is that different from Lambert?
General aviation is everything except commercial airlines and military aviation. So that includes the corporate jet flying to and from St. Louis to do business. It's the sport pilot, whether he's flying in his little Pitts biplane doing aerobatics for the Fair St. Louis air shows, helicopter, air ambulance, police, anything else other than airlines and military is general aviation.
Mm-hmm. And you have helicopters also out of your
That's
out of your
correct.
area?
We have quite a few. We have about 6 helicopter businesses, 2 helicopter flight schools. Helicopters Incorporated has all of St. Louis area's news and traffic helicopters. We have helicopters coming and going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Very busy place for helicopters.
And you have a real tower.
Absolutely.
Now, there have been some discussion well, of course, everybody knows the federal government is short on money, and part of the sequestration was to shut down or to slow down some FAA towers, controlled towers. Was yours one of them?
No, ours is not a contract tower. It's staffed and operated entirely by the FAA. Our first tower was built in '73. The trees outgrew the tower. It had certainly lived its useful life. In January 2008, we opened a new 158-foot tall state-of-the-art control tower. There was a traffic study done about that same time. Our tower was open from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. We did our traffic study from 4 in the morning until midnight to see if we could justify longer operating hours for the tower. And the study confirmed that during that time we had enough traffic that warranted the tower. We should have counted 24 hours a day because we have a lot of small package carriers, a lot of freight that moves throughout the night. Due to funding constraints, we weren't able to get the full time period, but when the towers closed at night, our pilots talked to St. Louis Approach Control. They can still come and go on instrument approaches. The field's attended, all the aircraft servicing is there 24 hours a day. We're clearly a 24-hour day, 365-day operation and stay busy most of the time.
So St. Louis Downtown Airport is a business.
Correct.
It's not a hobby.
That's correct.
And it's not for hobbyists. I mean, hobbyists come there, but
right.
I mean, it's not. It's a real business. And Bi-State operates this profitably?
Yes. As you mentioned at the beginning, we're owned and operated by Bi-State Development Agency. Bi-State bought us and reopened us. When most people think of Bi-State, more recently known as Metro, they think of Metrolink, the bus, the paratransit operation. Mm-hmm. There is a hard and fast wall between the transit operations and Bi-State's business enterprises. I answer directly to the Senior Vice President for Business Enterprises at Metro. The business enterprises are the airport. We also own and operate the heliport, which is located on a barge at the north leg of the Gateway Arch. Also, the Gateway Arch tram operations and the Gateway Arch riverboats are all business enterprises. Those business enterprises operate as an independent, standalone business. If I don't make a nickel at the airport, I don't have a nickel to spend. So it's we have always operated in the black. We receive no local taxpayer support whatsoever. It is a profitable business. Now, airports typically don't make a profit and build a bank account. At the end of the year, every nickel that we've got left over after we've paid our expenses goes into capital improvements the next year. We continue to grow, but we stay in the black all the time.
So for those who don't know airports, what is it you're selling?
Essentially, we are the landlord. You can come at it from a lot of different angles. We sell time and convenience. Actually, we lease the facilities, the ground, make the runways, taxiways, control tower, instrument approaches available to our tenant businesses who sell time. The business jet, the business aircraft is really a time machine. Mm-hmm. and that's well over half of our normal daily traffic is business people and tourists coming to and from St. Louis.
Now, are you selling, like when an airplane lands on your runway or takes off, is that you're billing them for each landing
No.
and takeoff, or is that you bill through these companies that you're leasing to?
We have no landing fees whatsoever.
Oh, is that right?
Our number one source of revenue for the airport is building and land rent. We charge a very small square foot fee for unimproved ground. The business leases the land from us on a long-term lease, builds hangars, offices, whatever facilities they need, and then at the end of their lease term, those improvements revert back to airport ownership. We're very nice. We allow the tenant to continue to use that building that they built for us and gave to us, but we charge them fair market rental value. So that's the number one source, is rent for the land and rent for the buildings that we own. Second largest source of revenue is fuel flowage. We don't store, handle, or sell fuel, but our two full-service fixed-base operators that do provide aircraft services sell the fuel, and they collect 10 cents per gallon for every gallon of fuel sold or consumed on the airport. That's our second largest source of revenue. From there, we get into kind of nickels and dimes. Surprisingly, our third largest source of revenue is farm income. On the outer areas away from the runways, land that is not yet developed, we grow wheat, soybeans, and a little bit of corn. That gives us some revenue. I also don't have to pay my airfield maintenance workers or put fuel in the tractor to go out and mow it. So it's a real win situation for us.
The way that you said that, it sounds to me like you and your board of directors probably have plans to continue to expand this airport
Absolutely.
facility. What do you, over the next, say, 10, 15, 20 years, what new things do you think will be coming to the downtown airport?
We most recently widened our primary runway. We have 3 runways. The primary runway is 7,003 feet by 150 feet wide, and it's capable of handling aircraft weighing up to 200,000 pounds, which is Boeing 757, 737, Airbus 319, and 320. The large charter type aircraft that sports teams fly on. The 757s are using us now. Our next step after improving that runway is to improve the taxiway infrastructure to make it easier for them to maneuver around on the ground. Right now, some of our taxiway intersections and turns are a little bit narrow. The pilots have to have a little extra caution to make sure that they stay on the pavement. So we want to widen those turn radiuses, improve some of our aging taxiways, and keep the airport right up to best standard we can maintain.
Now, here's a loaded question. Why are you guys doing so well where Mid-America isn't?
Our number one selling point is location. I can send pictures, descriptions, maps, and until the pilot or the principal business traveler steps off the airplane on our ramp and looks over and sees that gateway arch just a stone's throw, and then he gets in his taxi or limo, and less than 10 minutes later he's at the ball game, he's at the Jones Dome or downtown doing business. It's convenience. Location is everything for us. We have all the services that are needed. Mid-America, a little farther out, takes an extra 20 minutes to get to where they need to go. Are you going to go to the closest convenient destination that can give you good service, or one a little farther out?
I understand.
That's what it boils down to.
As I go ahead.
Mid-America's mission and purpose is a little different than ours, and let me back up just a little bit and talk about the 5 major towered airports in the St. Louis region. Airport management is a very close-knit community. There are fewer directors of commercial service airports in the entire United States than there are U.S. congressmen. So there aren't any new problems that someone else hasn't dealt with before. If you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. Everyone's a little bit different, but it's a close-knit community. We mostly know each other and are willing to help out. The 5 airports in the St. Louis region, the directors have a very close relationship. We meet for lunch on a fairly regularly basis just to talk region economics and what we can do to help each other. Mid-America's role originally was to be a major commercial reliever for Lambert. Of course, we all know what happened with American and the economy that changed Lambert's capacity capability.
Fortunes, actually.
Yeah. Mid-America's focus is on the large aircraft that we can't handle and that we don't want. I don't need a 747 or a DC-10 trying to land at my airport. Mm-hmm. Mid-America has perfect facilities for
Mid-America, let's face it, is an extension of Scott Air Force
Absolutely.
Base. I mean, that's why they built those extra runways, and you know, as I recall, it was something of a political deal in order to keep Scott alive. They
did that.
And they did.
Yeah.
And Scott's a very important piece of infrastructure, not just for Southern Illinois, but also for the Air Force.
When Mid-America opened, I said, in 25 years, people are going to look back and say, gee, those folks were really smart by building that airport. Well, the turn in the economy kind of stretched that out a bit.
I think you're
right. But I still think in the future,
I think you're right.
They're going to say it was the right thing to do.
Just like there was talk about building an airport at, was it
Peatone?
Columbia.
Oh, Columbia.
Yeah,
yes.
Columbia Waterloo. There was
yeah.
That got killed back in the early 70s.
And that's the airport we should have built.
Right. So, okay, now I'm going to shift subjects here on you. First, I'm going to say that to the audience so that they know this. We're sitting here talking. This is June 11th, 2013. This show is not going to be shown until something like July the 15th, when you're probably watching this, or later, because it's also on YouTube. And so I promised that we were going to talk about something that they don't want talked about until after the event. So that's why we're talking about it here, and this show won't be shown until after the event. Now, having prepped that, you are going to be having an air show over at the downtown airport, and you're going to have a special needs day. Is
right.
that correct? Why don't you take it from there? You know more than I do.
Our airport has been the base of operations for air shows at the Gateway Arch Riverfront off and on since the 60s. And again, it's a location thing. They can take off and a minute later be in the aerobatic box at the riverfront. Fair St. Louis hosts the Gateway Arch Riverfront celebration over the 4th of July week. They bring the nation's top air show performers here, typically 2 shows a day at the riverfront for 2 or 3 days. We have a very special event at the airport for our air show fans with special needs that find it difficult to maneuver through the crowds and enjoy the air show at the riverfront. We don't publicize it in advance. It's all done through word of mouth, through special needs organizations. And by special needs, we're not just talking about children. We're talking about fans with special needs of all ages, from young children to veterans who are now living in nursing homes. We have a section which we reserve for people with hearing impairments. We bring in American Sign Language interpreters so that they can watch the air show and have the interpreter repeat what the air show announcer is saying over the loudspeaker so that they can enjoy the narration. We have special programs, a large print program for those with sight impairments. We have a Braille program. Some people say, why would someone that's blind come to an air show? For the thrill of the activity, the noise, the excitement, and it's not just what's going on out in front of them. After the air show performance is over, the performers actually come, talk to the crowd, sign autographs. We let the people go out to the aircraft. It's really a treat to watch a blind child who's heard the airplane walk up and move their hand across the sharp edge of the propeller, the smooth leading edge of the wing. They begin to understand how airplanes fly. Also, kids with autism that may not be comfortable in large crowds, noisy environments. It's just a really special crowd. It's open to all those with special needs, their caregivers, and their immediate families. We can't advertise it publicly in advance because then we'd have thousands of people there and it would eliminate that special experience.
How do the people that do wind up coming there find out about it?
Word of mouth through the various support organizations for the special needs groups. It's many of the people who are involved in organizing this have special needs or have relatives with special needs, so they are involved in these support organizations. The first year that we did this, a couple of years ago, we had planned for 500 to 600 people. It had been several years since it had been done. That was prior to the internet. And for several years, a decade ago, we'd have 200 to 300 people come out for this event.
And this year you're expecting?
We expected 500 to 600 2 years ago, and we got about 3,000. So we clearly can't advertise it. We're expecting anywhere between 2,500 and 4,000 this year. We're equipped to handle it. Another neat thing about this air show, it's absolutely free for the participants. For the audience. We encourage them to bring lawn chairs, umbrellas, ice chests, whatever they need to make their experience enjoyable. When they come through the gate, we hand them the whatever is the most appropriate type of program, packet of sunscreen, bottles of water, and during the event we've got volunteers passing out literally thousands of frozen freezer pops, and it's all done through the generous donations of our supporters. The airshow performers are under contract to perform the riverfront air shows. We talk about it in advance when we're arranging the schedule, but when they get there, we ask, we've got this additional air show, and we're not going to pay you to do it. Would you like to be a part of it? And without exception, they are eager to perform in it, and they really enjoy the interaction with the crowd.
This is great. I'm glad that glad we've had a chance to talk about it. Now, in our last 4 minutes or so, because we're down to about that, I just want to talk about, excuse me, Hangar number 2. You have an air and space museum that probably most people in St. Louis have never heard of.
That's correct.
First of all, what goes on in there and why haven't they heard about it?
Let me back up. I mentioned that we're steeped in history.
Yes.
Hangar 1 and 2 are 2 of only about 5 Curtiss Wright hangars that were built in the late 20s, early 30s all over the nation. There were 20 or 30 of those type hangars, and there's only 5 left, and our 2 are in the best condition of the 5. Amelia Earhart, Jimmy Doolittle, Charles Lindbergh, all of the pioneers of the 30s flew out of those hangars. They've been listed on the American Registry of Historical Places. They are in need of renovation, and we're working to raise money and hopefully find some grants that will restore them to their original grandeur. The Greater St. Louis Air and Space Museum is housed in historic Hangar 2. It's a tremendous collection of artifacts, aircraft, books, great library, some artwork, and a dedicated group of volunteers that are very active in sharing the thrill of aviation and space with kids.
Mm-hmm. You're only open part of the week.
Right.
It's not like in Washington where you're open all the time.
Correct. Check our website or call the Air and Space Museum ahead of time. They're normally open through the summer, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. But if you have a group or just a couple of people that you're going to be in town and can only make it Monday afternoon, call. They'll be there, they'll open it up, they're more than happy to show you around. Mm-hmm. I mentioned our early aviation history. The Mercury and Gemini space capsules were actually waterland tested on our airport. There was a man-made reservoir and a big gantry. They would drop the capsules down in the water and test them. That's all been gone.
They were right over at McDonnell Douglas,
right.
or actually McDonnell Aircraft at that time.
Many of the McDonnell employees that were involved in that are involved in our museum. Rose Church was the head flight nurse for the early space program. We have many of her artifacts there. It's really an interesting and educational place.
I'm just surprised. I keep my eyes and ears open for interesting areas in St. Louis. I only just recently learned about this myself within the last month or so, and I was very surprised. I'm surprised that St. Louis has not spent more time educating the public about it.
The museum is growing. You're going to be seeing more out of it. Most of their artifacts were damaged in the '93 flood when they were located at Spirit of St. Louis Airport. Mm-hmm. But they're going strong now. You'll be seeing more. And they've made partnerships with the St. Louis Science Center and other entities here. So
well, just a suggestion, you guys need to hook up with Channel 2, 4, and 5 News. They're always looking for interesting stories
Absolutely.
To do. Well, excuse me, my throat's going on me. I'm very, very pleased to have had you here and had an opportunity to talk to you and expose your airport and this museum to the public.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us today. To my audience, I've been speaking with Bob McDaniel. He is the director of the St. Louis Downtown Airport. You probably have seen this. You can see it from downtown. But in any case, they can see the Gateway Arch from there. For those of you who are interested, you ought to go take a look at their museum. This is going to be on YouTube. If you want to show it to people, you get a second shot. Thanks.